Look out, boxing fans. It's your boy Ashy Knuckles from MandatoryDefense.com. The subject of this video has to do with being frozen out in the cold. And the fighter that I'm referring to is none other than Guillermo El Chacal Rigondeaux. Here it is. This guy still cannot get a big fight. As of right now, everybody is clamoring and raving about Vasily Lomachenko and the things that he's done in the amateurs as well as what he's done in the professional ranks, as you should be. He is a very decorated fighter in both areas of combat, whether it was the professional game or the amateurs. But prior to Vasily Lomachenko becoming a professional and doing all these great feats, there was a guy similar to what he was doing named Guillermo Rigondeaux, who's basically been forgotten. He's basically known as an afterthought. But in the amateur ranks, he would win over 450 amateur fights and lost 12. That's quite not quite as impressive as losing one and avenging it twice, but 450 amateur wins with 12 losses is impeccable. And he too also won 2 Olympic gold medals, but nobody brings that up. And when he turned professional, he would win a world title prior to even winning 10 fights, and he would be a unified champion prior to even winning 12 fights. That is unbelievable. But the way their careers have gone has been dramatically different. The promotional outfit that represented Guillermo Rigondeaux act like he was an enemy of Guillermo Rigondeaux. He wasn't getting them fights. He wasn't taking them to a growing Cuban market in Florida and try to build that up based on the skill set and talent of Guillermo Rigondeaux and his accomplishments. I mean, the things that Lomachenko are doing could have easily been highly touted for Guillermo Rigondeaux, but he's been placed on the back burner. So in the biggest fight of his career, he was undefeated, and he took on one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in Nonito Donaire, and he beat the brakes off of Nonito Donaire, who was a great fighter himself. And after that fight, his promotional company basically stepped on him as if he went in there and just gave up the ghost and just put on a terrible performance. But he put on an excellent performance. He shut down everything Nonito Donaire tried. And he basically called his style not exciting, and nobody wants to see it. And the old media at that time were very complicit in that behavior, blaming the fighter when all the fighter, Guillermo Rigondeaux, the Jackal, all he ever did when he stepped in the ring is dominate whoever they put in front of him. So he was basically pushed out into the cold to the point where he had to go up 2 weight divisions and challenge a guy who was much bigger than him in a fight. Now, all of a sudden, when they build this fight, Guillermo Rigondeaux is this, he's that, he's great, he's awesome. They built him up because they knew that Lomachenko was going to knock him down because he was so much bigger than him. And on top of it, he was making guys quit at 130 pounds. It was Guillermo Rigondeaux's first fight at that weight. And in the fight, he saw that it was too much that he can handle. But lo and behold, even Lomachenko didn't even want to take credit after the fight because he said Guillermo Rigondeaux is a king, but he's a king at his own weight division. And as it stands right now at the 122-pound weight division, where Guillermo Rigondeaux is campaigning, again, his natural weight, there's a lot of excitement happening in the 122-pound weight division. You got champions such as Daniel Roman. You got champions like Ray Vargas, and you also got you also have Ray Vargas, and you also have Emmanuel Navarrete, who was a WBO champ with Top Rank Boxing. So it's a lot of good possible matchups that can happen at 122 pounds. And again, the lineal champion, as he was stripped for going up in weight and challenging Lomachenko, he was never defeated in the ring at 122 pounds. So the lineal champion in Guillermo Rigondeaux is still in the cold. Nobody brings his name up. The old media, the old heads, act like he's not even a professional fighter, like he's not even campaigning, like he's not even competing. And I think it's ridiculous because the guy even had to change his style up a little bit just so he can get fights. He was known as a guy who liked to move. He liked to counterpunch and basically shut down everything you tried based on what you were doing in the ring. And now he's more of a guy who's like to stand in front of his opponent, bang out a little bit until he can dial up the right combination to get his opponent out of there. You also got another WBA champion in Brandon Figueroa, who just had a fight in South Texas. Put on a great display of boxing by outmanning a very small and outgunned challenger in Chakal. And also on that undercard, you got a rising great boxer puncher in Stephen Fulton, who's the IBO champion by way of Philadelphia. You got him also making noise and making himself known on the world stage, and he's ready for all these big fights. But the only big fight you never hear about as it pertains to 122 pounds is the fight with the lineal champion in Guillermo Rigondeaux. This guy's getting older, but he still has what it takes to compete at the highest level at this weight. And what's happened in his professional career has been nothing other than a travesty. I mean, this guy defected from Cuba to come to the United States for a better life, and he used his natural gifts and the things that he's learned in the trade of boxing from the amateur careers, bringing an Olympic pedigree, and the people who were supposed to be helping to promote him and to market him to the American audience have done nothing but drop fecal matter on him and his career. Hopefully, as the time goes by, you will begin to hear more people clamoring for him and the things that he can do in the ring, and putting pressure on all these top guys at 122 pounds to face the rightful champion at that weight, which is 122 pounds, which is the real champion, Guillermo Rigondeaux. Back when he was a unified champion at that weight, he couldn't get a big fight. Leo Santa Cruz did everything in his power to duck and dodge and avoid him. I'm not taking a whole lot of credit away from Santa Cruz because he's an accomplished fighter himself, but he wanted no parts with the Jackal. Also, Carl Frampton was a champion at that weight, and instead of fighting the unified champion in Guillermo Rigondeaux, he went up to featherweight to fight Leo Santa Cruz in order to freeze the real champion out of the big fights at that weight. Maybe they were scared. I'm not one who particularly believes that fighters are afraid of each other, but they definitely did not want to lose everything that they've accomplished by getting in the ring with somebody who's going to be too difficult and too tricky for them. And basically, I just believe that those fighters believed in their mind that they couldn't beat them. It wasn't that they were afraid, because fighters are not afraid, but they knew in their heart of hearts that was an uphill battle, and one that they at least as far as the odd makers are concerned and the pundits, was a fight that they could not win. So they did whatever they had to do to avoid him, and he's, as of right now, stands as the modern day Mark Too Sharp Johnson. For those old heads like myself, know Mark Too Sharp Johnson was a great southpaw fighter, like Guillermo Rigondeaux. He was one of the little guys in the fight game. And he was avoided by guys like Danny Romero and Johnny Tapia and the like, where those guys fought each other, but they left Mark Too Sharp Johnson in the cold. And I think it's ridiculous, the things that the boxing fans and the media allow in the sport of boxing, where they come together in unison to freeze a guy out based on, I guess, his style. But if everybody fought the same, this would not be the sport of boxing. Boxing is what it is because it's a unique combination of styles all in one sport, and it's the matching of these styles is what makes big fights. And the guys who fight like Guillermo Rigondeaux are always on the back burner, but the guys who come forward and make for action-packed fights are always brought to the forefront. But you cannot keep the guy who boxes on the move out of these big fights, because some of these pressure guys know how to do something that should be congratulated in the ring, and that's cut the ring off. But if you leave the guy who boxes on the move out of the big fights, then you never know if those pressure guys have that a part of their repertoire. So it's just one big mess up in the sport of boxing. I'm trying to hold back on my profanity. But I'm pissed, man. I wanted to see Guillermo Rigondeaux's whole career, and it has not gone the way he planned. Hopefully, as time moves on, these big fights at 122 pounds will involve the lineal champion, and we'll get to see these fights. Um, that's all I got for you as it pertains to this particular fighter and this ordeal. Leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll get back with you with the next video. It's your boy Ashley Knuckles with MandatoryDefense.com. Shout out to the whole LDBC. I'm out this thing. If you like the content that you just seen in this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the icon button. Also, stop by MandatoryDefense.com, where the ring sorts out all the facts for your latest news and updates and views in the sport of boxing. Stop by Facebook.com/Come Out Fighting. Like the page. You can also follow Ashley Knuckles on Twitter at A Puncher's Chance. I appreciate you for stopping in. That's all I got for you. We all go through pain.